this up because I know they've had a meeting in that place. So when you're thinking about, I mean, truthfully, when you're thinking about any sort of yoga practice, you want to think about, it's like clothing, right? You are not meant to fit into clothing. Clothing is meant to fit onto you. Same thing with your yoga practice. You're not meant to fucking pretzel yourself into something that doesn't feel right. And when it comes to chair yoga, it really helps to think about, what is this pose for? You know, am I stretching my back? Am I stretching my hips? Am I working on balance? Am I looking for strength? That is what's going to help you, whether you're practicing with a chair or whether you're just practicing on your mat. It's going to help you to have that mindfulness and that body awareness to just be in any pose better. So I should say that this type of class, as it's meant to be just an intro, it's not going to be like we're flowing from one thing to another. I'm just going to go through, I think I've got like 16 poses that are pretty foundational, and we'll just go through and we'll talk about them and then practice them, okay? So for the first one, we're going to take our bolster or blanket, depending on the length of your legs. That's what's going to be important. Yeah, so Molly, long legs. You're going to probably just want, and you might actually be fine there. You actually have a perfect 90-degree angle. You're fine. Some of us, because essentially you want that nice, 90 degrees. So that's why I said you might have to grab something just to give yourself a little bit more level here. And the same thing with your butt. So if you feel like you're kind of sliding back or you're leaning too far, you can put a blanket underneath your butt, because I know that the chairs are kind of like that. You'll have to just play around with that for a second. We're going to come into mountain pose. So when we think about mountain pose, we think about bearing down through our feet, pressing down through all parts of our feet. We think about that internal rotation of the thigh bones, thinking about keeping our spine nice and long. That's really the essence of mountain. And so you can keep your hands on your thighs if you want to. You can put them down just like you would do if you were standing. And yeah, my legs are too low. I need this guy. Because you don't want your legs to feel passive. You want to feel like you're still pressing down, okay? And you want your feet to be that nice hip width. You want to feel like, okay, I'm in this pose. My butt just happens to be on the seat. And being here. And when you're really pulling in the navel and you're coming into that like neutral pelvis and keeping that spine nice and long, this shit feels like a lot. And go ahead and just let go and sit back as normal and feel the difference in your body, right? Even just doing that, like if you sit at the office or something, just trying this for 10 breaths will definitely help get some kinks out. So I'm gonna actually, yeah, we'll do child underneath of my butt, because I really am sliding backwards. We're going to be moving forward into child's pose. There are two different ways that we can do your bolster and standing it up. And then depending on how far you want to lean forward, you might also place a block or a blanket on top of it just to kind of give you that height, right? And we're going to, that elevator. We're going to open up our knees so that way we can have space to lean forward, particularly when you got stuff here in the front. okay? And so just like how you would do normally, keep that spine long, and you're gonna lean it forward. And ideally, you line up the bolster so that you can bring your forehead down to the mat. Because a lot of us, when we're in child's pose, when we're laying down, when we're prone, we do rest the forehead on the mat. And so making that connection, I feel like, is important. And then just thinking about when you're in this shape on your mat, you know, what are you doing? What are you feeling? Can you feel that as you are here? Is it stretching your back? Are your hips opened if you like to take a wide leg one? Come back up, and I want you to try the second one too. So the second one uses chair number 2. I will come at the table so that whoever's watching can see me. But it's the same concept where we take the bolster, and like how we would create an incline with blocks, we're just creating that incline using the chair and the bolster. And so then again, open up the knees wide, bring the chair as close to you as you need to, and then we're leaning forward. And you can either rest your arms on the bolster or hook them onto the back of the opposite chair. We can even just kind of lower down, whatever works for you. I like to drape my arms over the top of that second chair, because for me, that feels really close to what it would be like for me to do it on the mat. Come on, back up. And the thing is that you can really make this as, I guess, intense as you want or as relaxed as you want. You know, you could take multiple cushions, and that way you don't have to lean too far. You know, when I'm leaning into this, I'm really leaning pretty far, and it ends up activating even into my legs, which I'm okay with. But if you're not okay with it, you can continue to prop yourself so that you really are in a very relaxed state. But you're still stretching the back, stretching the hips, possibly even stretching into those glutes. Yeah, I like it. Looks good. Do you feel like you could stay there for a little while? Theoretically? Yeah. Good. Have you come back up? So the next one, I'm going to show some of these poses. I'm going to show you a seated version versus a standing version with the chair. So last week, Tuesday, I ended up having like what essentially was this impromptu private session with Dee, and she wanted to work on balance poses. And we did a lot of tree pose and dancer and all that stuff using the chair. So it's a really nice tool that we don't always have access to. Luckily, the pastor has set up and borrowed these. So that's super cool because they're pretty expensive. So the seated version of chair pose, you want to come to the edge, you know, as much as feels comfortable. You don't want to feel like you're falling forward, okay? And then we want to take one of our blocks. I'm gonna put the block underneath my right foot first. We'll just do both sides, you know, it ultimately won't matter. So our left leg is going to be our grounding leg. So imagine if we were here, right? So just pressing it down into the mat. Again, if you need to prop your foot up so that you feel more stable, go ahead and do that. Then we're gonna take our right foot and we're gonna place essentially the ball of the foot onto the block. You will have to adjust how far this is to the chair or away from the chair. And then we're ultimately going to open up this, I like the block a long way, that's just me. We're gonna open up this hip. And the reason I say to be as close to the edge as you can without falling over is because when you're perched on that edge, it is going to require you to find a little bit of balance here, okay? And so this leg, just like how it would be tucked into in the fold, it's a hip opener. We forget that tree is a hip opener. We know that it's good for stability, we know it's good for balance, we know that it's good for focusing our mind by, finding that drishti point, but we forget it's also a hip opener. And so keeping that spine nice and long as best as you can, and just having that thigh open. And of course, if you want, just like how you would normally do, if you want to bring your arms up or your, hands to heart, whatever you normally do, you can do that. And this would be however many breaths feels comfortable for you. Traditionally in a class, I'll say 3 to 5. So that's kind of up to you there. And when you do transition out, just make sure you're coming in nice and slow. I would say at least stretch the legs, maybe even do some of that wiggling like you do if you were standing. And we'll switch the block to the opposite foot. So same thing, ground down through that right leg first. Make sure you've got that nice base, nice long spine, and then start adjusting that left leg. So opening up that hip crease and just kind of coming up on the ball of the foot. If you want to come flat foot, that's cool. The only reason I say come up on the ball of the foot is because it does force you to do some strengthening. And then when you're ready, again, you can just gently come back and, maybe wiggle into it. So then a standing version with the chair. It's very similar to what you would do without a chair, but the beauty of this is that you don't have to focus on your balance so much. What I was explaining to Dee was because she was like, balance poses are really hard for me and I've lost a lot of strength. And the reality is that the stronger you are, the more balance you end up having. It's like, that's why they tell elderly people, like, continue to be active because your balance is going to get worse as you get older, but that's strength and that'll help your mobility. So what I generally do then, if I'm taking tree on my right side, so my grounding leg, I'm going to hold on to the chair with my left. You will have to feel what feels good for you. And then essentially, you're holding on nice and strong here, so that way you can just bring that opposite foot to ankle, shin, thigh, just like you would normally do. But you don't have to, let go and wiggle and wobble. You're using this to help you stay stable. When we're trying to balance here, and if we don't necessarily have very strong hips, we're going to bow out, we're going to wobble, but using this chair, it allows us to get that strength in those hips and stay stable. And you can always just one arm, hand hard or up or whatever works for you, okay? So I'll have you stand up and bring your chair sideways to you. Like I said, I hold on with the opposite hand. If that doesn't feel right for you, just go ahead and flip it. And then just think about how this pose is meant to feel, right? We're feeling nice and strong in that grounding leg. We're opening up that left hip, or depending on what you started with. And we're finding that focus. And you're always welcome to let go just to see what the difference feels like. Because I think that's important, just kind of do a compare and contrast. Yeah, right? Right. I mean, even if you've been practicing yoga for years and years and years, just having that hand on the chair is like, well, shit, now I'm like nice and stable. And you can really focus so much better. Yeah. I don't know why we don't use them more. But for real, So just make sure you switch legs, do the other side there. And I feel like when we are in a place where we're more stable, it gives us the opportunity to explore the sensations that are in our body.
Wait, I did the same one. I just turned my body.
Wait a second, something's overnight.
Finish more where you're standing.
That's exactly it. And that's my issue with why I don't like vinyasa, is because I feel like it doesn't give me that time and that space to be aware. But this type of practice, it really gives you that. You're like, oh, wait a minute, I can kind of just shift that or turn that. Yeah. Beautiful. Love it. Yeah, and walk it out, walk it out, walk it out. So, cat and cow, I'm gonna do next. And I know I've done this in class before where we're seated. But I'm gonna get a little bit closer. And it's rough, not really very tall. Jesus. So with cat and cow, generally, we try to keep the hands either on the thighs, or if you would prefer to pretend you're in that tabletop, you can just, make your arms forward into that tabletop shape like you would be on the mat. I just leave it on my thighs. But starting with a nice long spine and you're looking forward. On your inhale, you start pressing that chest forward, bringing the shoulder blades together, and your gaze will go up. And then on the exhale, we start dropping the chin, rounding into the spine, pulling those shoulder blades away. And just moving back and forth through it. I would just say, when you're taking this, yes, it can be gentler. But for me, for example, I have SI issues. And so I can feel this like crazy in my SI joint. So just listen to your body and see what it's telling you to do. Really, when we're in cat and cow, what are we doing? We're flexing our spine, right? We're activating our core. We're moving into the hips, and we can do that just as we're doing it right now. Oops. Go sideways again. You don't necessarily need your second chair for the next one, but it's there as an option. We're gonna do a sun salutation. Now, so I mentioned I was accessible yoga trained, and the person who runs it, his name is Jeevan Heyman, he's amazing. He does his sun salutations just a smidge different. I just kind of modified it personally for myself. Sun salutations are rough for me because of all the pressure in your hands, your wrists, your arms. So this was something that I just had to do for my own sake. But I feel like it works fairly decently, capturing the essence of what that sequence of poses does. So we're going to start in that mountain pose that we already learned how to do. On an inhale, our arms will go overhead, our gaze follows. On the exhale, just as normal, we start folding it forward. And so this is where you can either bring your arms to the chair in front of you or just drop it in, just like a fold. Then when we inhale, we can either slide the palms to the shins like we would do standing or bring them to the chair. And then we're gonna exhale back down to that forward fold, pretending that we would plant our hands, right? And instead of planting our hands, we're gonna reach our arms back and grab onto either the back of the chair or the seat, depending on the length of your arms. And on your inhale then, you're gonna start lifting the torso up. While you're doing that, you're bringing the shoulder blades together, and you're pressing the chest forward, coming into essentially what looks like a cobra. If holding on with your arms doesn't feel good, from that forward fold, you can bring your arms up in front of you and pretending you're pressing against something just like you were in the cobra, okay? And then we're going to bring our arms to the chair and try to stretch them out as nice and straight and far as we can, almost like we're taking a down dog. And I am going to show you another variation on down dog in a moment. And then pretending we're walking our feet to our hands, we're going to slide those arms back, find ourselves in the forward fold. We'll inhale to that half fold. Exhale, fold. And then inhale, roll up to stand, arms overhead. And exhale, hands to heart. So we'll do 2 more of those, just like how we would normally do something. So from mountain then, inhale those arms up. Exhale, fold. Inhale to your half fold. Exhale back down into the full fold. Reaching the arms back if you're taking that version of cobra. And on the inhale, lifting the torso, pushing the chest out, bringing those shoulder blades together. And then bringing the arms forward, stretching them nice and long, either just in the air or to the chair. Exhale down into a full fold. Inhale to the half. Exhale back down to the full. Inhale, roll those arms up. Exhale, hands to heart. Good, 1 more, starting in mountain. Inhale those arms up. Exhale, fold it. Inhale, half. Exhale, back down to full, swing those arms back. Inhale, lift the torso, push the chest forward, shoulder blades together. Exhale, swing those arms forward, lengthen them. Exhale into a fold again. Inhale into a half fold. Exhale down into the full. And inhale, bring the arms overhead. And exhale, hands to heart. So you're still going through all of those motions, right? You're still stretching the same places. You're still able to build some core strength without having to potentially hurt yourself. So down dog is another one of those poses that is not my friend as of late. So I have been at home practicing it using a chair. And there are two different ways that I've been doing it, depending on my mood, essentially. There's the lower part of the chair and the upper part of the chair. You can also use a wall for this. I mean, it's just as effective. So with the lower part of the chair, you're just gonna place your hands on the, as far, away on the edges of the seat as you can, but you still wanna feel like, you're solidly on the seat of the chair. And then I start walking it back because everybody has different, anatomical measurements here. So once you get back to the point where you're like, okay, this feels really familiar, I'm shooting my hips backward, I'm stretching my arms, and so I'm still feeling all of this down dog energy, but I am not putting, and look, I can lift my hands up. Like I'm not putting any pressure in that. I'm finding all of the strength really in my legs and in my core here. You can do a similar thing with the top part of the chair. Obviously, you're gonna have to grip it versus having flat palms, but same concept. You hold onto it, you start moving yourself back as far as it feels normal for you, and then there you go, you're still in that shape. And of course, adjusting your pelvis and adjusting, your abs as you would normally do if you were in regular down dog, okay? So I would encourage you to try both of them, both on the seat and on the top if you feel comfortable doing that. Yeah. And this is also one of those types of poses where, I think I can only speak for myself because I only live in this body, right? But I feel like because I have belly and boobs, sometimes I start feeling suffocated in this pose because you're like upside down, everything's just rushing at you. So for me, this just feels nicer. Nice. And when you're here, you can still pedal the feet if you want to. You can still do three-legged dogs if that's something that you like to do. It's all about just finding that distance and what feels comfortable for you. Yeah, and then that's the thing, like it's really a shoulder strengthening pose. But when you're upside down and there's so many different things going on, sometimes you just dump into it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good, it like opens it, like.
It feels like, yeah, because when I bring it back, oh, my stop.
Yes,
Like, how do I just lose my stopper?
that's exactly it. And sure, we can do hand and wrist strengthening exercises. However, sometimes that's just not enough,
I struggle with down dog, so that's a good alternative.
And then, I think I've done it before in classes where, you can use the wall too, and it's the same concept where you're pushing against the wall, and then, coming here. I feel like the issue though is, it's almost like this stigma where everybody else is doing it like this. If I do it like this, then I'm gonna feel weird. And I'm just like, fuck that, embrace the weird, man. Grab a chair, grab a wall, do what you need to do, because what's the point, in doing this if we're not doing something that serves us?
like showing up people in a folding chair.
Listen, there are plenty of chairs up there, so. That's one of my plans for investment is buying chairs, but I also wanna buy, yoga trapezes. Cause I have one at home and they're amazing. Like down dog with the trapeze, it's like weightless, it's beautiful, back bends, like, oh, it's so nice. I even do warriors, cause you can just kind of like sling it between your legs and just kind of be at the right height where it's just holding you up, so you're just like, yes. Yeah, they're super awesome, so I'm working there.
Like no one does that.
No,
I
no.
looked for it, I'm like, why are you doing it?
No, I know, and I don't know why people don't do it. That's my plan. I have to talk to the husband, so. All right, so let's do some warriors then. So there's two different ways that I've seen warriors being done. You'll decide which one feels best for you, but this is a pose where we're gonna end up sitting sideways on the chair. So for some of us, that might mean half of your ass is hanging off the chair. Just make sure that you're holding on so you don't fall off, okay? So we'll take it with the block first. So that block is gonna come down, you know, it's on the right, well, I have my right leg hanging off, I don't know about you all. My right leg is hanging off, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to actually bring my right knee to this block. So you'll have to line it up for yourself here. And think about, you know, let's pretend that that leg is back and the toes are at 45 like we would normally do, right? And we can bend into this front knee. And now for me personally, I have a hard time squaring my hips and having this knee bent, you know, more than like that when I'm standing. This gives me the opportunity to bend more into that front leg while still being able to bring my hips forward. Then from here, you can either hold onto your chair if you feel like, you know, I want some more stability, or you could just bring those arms up like you would normally bring them up. And just think about, you know, you're pressing down through that right knee, right? Just like how you would be with your leg. You're pressing down with that front leg. You're stretching actively up the torso through those hands. It's all of the things that you would do. Another version of this one that I just don't like as much, but some people might, does not involve this block. You're still seated sideways, but instead you take that outside leg and you just bring it outside. So just kind of stretching it perpendicular to your torso. And then same thing, rotate those hips forward and then come up. I think I don't like this one because the outsides of my hips are a little less flexible. And so it's like almost at that point where you feel like, shit, I'm gonna get a cramp. So I just prefer the block, but it's good to try things out. Yeah, nope, not doing that one. So then of course, I'm gonna want you to turn yourself around, take that other side. And you might decide that one side likes the block, the other side likes the other one, who knows? But again, finding that shape. And then when you're ready, bringing those hips up. I'm sorry, the arms up, not your hips up. And I feel like it gives you an opportunity to pay a little bit more attention to your knee. You know, sometimes that front knee will sort of dip in or out, and this gives it a little bit more stability because the leg is resting on the chair. It allows those hips to move forward more because you're not spread your legs as wide. But still doing all the things we want it to. So bring your arms back down, and essentially, I'm just gonna show you warrior two and reverse warrior. Just because it's essentially the same shape, right? Just like how you would be doing it standing, sometimes you go through one, and then all we're gonna do is shift our torso, opening it up, and just gazing past those front fingers. You might have to slide up on your chair a little bit more, depending on the length of your thighs, to be able to sort of access that shape. And then, of course, for reversing the warrior, we lift that right arm up to the sky, and then the left one either just touching your thigh or grabbing the seat of the chair. And then coming back. And I didn't put all of the poses in the world on here, but as you can see from this shape, you can easily bring that arm down for an extended side angle, similar design, right? You can even come into triangle pose. You can just extend that front leg, straighten it out, and then you don't even have to touch the floor. Like, I don't even touch the floor in regular triangle anymore. I just lower that arm and lift the other one. Because when we think about triangle, we really want to think about rolling that hip back, opening the shoulders, opening the chest. Nobody says you have to touch the floor. So, if you want to switch your sides, you can go ahead and move through any or all of what we just went through.
I think there was truck in this.
Yeah. And so this is one of those moments where you can also, do it standing and go like, oh, yeah, what? Like for me, for this, I feel it way more like down the back of my leg. I know I can't get my hips all the way square. It's almost like my torso is left out of it.
I didn't even realize that this was a torso stretch until just right now.
Yeah,
I was like,
see?
oh, this is what this is supposed to be.
Yeah. And that's why I've been telling people, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing yoga or how much of an expert you think you are, this makes you just completely think about all of these poses differently.
That's right here.
Uh-huh.
It's not for me.
No, right,
Yes.
right.
This way better. Now, would this be something, if you're in a regular class and you didn't have chairs, that you could just even take it like
Yes,
and get that same?
that's what, honestly, I've been doing that, the last couple of flow-ish classes that I've been teaching. I have been coming into like essentially low lunges, because that's kind of what it is, and doing like a variation of warrior two and reaching back for the reverse warrior. Yeah, for sure. And I just think that it comes with a certain level of comfort, for you to advocate what this is what I want to do.
Yeah, to get on your knees or.
Yeah. I mean, me, I'm gonna be like, fuck yes.
Oh, you're a teacher.
I don't know what other teachers would think or whatever, but ultimately, who gives a shit, right? I will applaud you, so. Okay, so eagle pose, not normally a pose that I personally put in my classes because there's just so much going on, right? There's the wrapping of the arms, wrapping of the legs, trying to balance. And for me, I can't wrap my legs the way that you see people do it in books and whatever. And the beauty of this is it doesn't matter. So for eagle in the chair, we come halfway up the chair or closer to the edge, depending on the leg length again. Our left leg is going to be our grounding leg. So we're just going to step this up on a block, perhaps if you need to. I know that I need to. That right leg is just going to cross over. So doesn't matter about wrapping, right? We're just crossing over. From here, you can, if you like to take those eagle arms, if that feels good for you, you can do that. If not, we do the hug. And then you can decide, how do you want to do this? Do you want to stay right here? Do you want to try to lean it forward a little? That's up to you. But thinking about, as you're crossing those legs, don't make them entirely passive. Think about squeezing. So like I'm pressing the side of my right leg into my left knee. So I'm like kind of compressing my legs together. And that gives me the sensation that you would get if you were wrapping. And, you know, opening up the shoulders for the arm version. Yeah. And so this is similar. We'll take the other side in a second, but this is similar to a seated pigeon. So a seated pigeon, we would just try to cross it a little bit more open, you know, rather than trying to get a tight cross. And then you can decide, do I want to keep my base leg straight down, or do I want to extend it? By extending it, obviously you're going to stretch up the back of it, but that's also going to, because we're going to lean forward, that's also going to put you in a place where you're like, am I going to fall? I don't know. Of course, you can grab your second chair and hold on to it to keep you from falling. But you're still going to be stretching those exact places. It's going to be the outside of that bent leg hip, stretching up the back of that extended leg. And then come on back up. And then just switch side, make sure you do your eagle. Oh yeah, God, I can barely cross this one. And so like if your left arm is on top the first time, just, you know, we'll just switch, right? I don't even know what I did the first time, so we're just gonna take a guess. And then go ahead and open up that cross a little bit and extend the leg if you're going to come into your pigeon. I know, like, I love pigeon, and I know a lot of people hate pigeon. And I think one of the reasons is because it is really, really tight. And if your hips are lacking a certain level of mobility, it becomes, you know, uncomfortable. Your leg can go numb if you're leaning into it too hard. And so this is a nice way to still stretch in those ways without worrying about doing that to yourself. Come on back up. We're gonna need 2 blocks for the next one. You're gonna come to the edge of the seat as much as you can. And you will have a foot on each block, whether you have long legs or not. We're gonna definitely both all use the blocks. So just kind of put them, yeah, just like you are. And then you're gonna slowly start opening up those hips as far as what feels right for you. This is goddess pose. So think about goddess pose when you're standing, right? We open up those hips and we drop the pelvis. But this allows us to be in that shape without quivering quadriceps. I know you've got long legs. You might be able to get away with no blocks. I'm not sure, but.
I feel like it adds a little bit more to the, like the stretch a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, a bit more.
I feel like I can open up my hips wider in this version than if I'm standing. But same thing, you know, you're keeping that spine nice and long, and you can do whatever feels good, you know, with the arms. But yeah, like I would feel this shit in my glutes, like big time. Mm-hmm. Yes, and that's you. Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. And bring it back. So it's same concept. Like Malasana is not a pose that you enjoy doing. I did this with Dee the other day because she is not a fan of Malasana either. You can again take the blocks and put them at a higher height and bring your feet up on them. And you'll kind of have to adjust, you know, how far forward you go. You'll have to adjust how far open your legs are, depending on just, you know, your body. But you can still come into that shape of Malasana without having to worry about not having the feet flat or trying to hold on. Same concept here. There we go. Definitely done a couple more than I planned on doing, but that's okay, because this is fun. So boat pose. Oh shit, you know, I was gonna do balancing tabletop when we did cat and cow, and we didn't, so we'll do it with boat pose. So a couple different ways we can do boat. We can do it with one chair or with two chairs. So one of the ways that we can do it with one chair is you want to have a little bit of a space, maybe I should go sideways for this. A little bit of a space between your back and the chair so that when you can lean back. Now, I personally hold on to the chair. I'm just not a fan of taking an unsupported boat, but you know, you don't have to. And so when you're leaning into the back of the chair, as you're doing that, you're pulling that navel in. You're activating that whole core, including the back. And then you can either take one leg forward, you can take two legs forward. It's up to you. If you want to lift the arms, you can. I feel like, shit, man, that's intense. And then with the second chair, same concept, but instead of hovering the legs, you've got them supported. I would just say either keep your toes pointing at the sky or forward, because that is going to activate these muscles, but in a way that you're like, okay, I don't feel like I have to struggle here. And I suppose if you want to go real hard, you can bring your legs up on the top edge of the chair. Still the same shape, still the same concept here. And I think this is a nice way to start either building or rebuilding core strength. You know, if boat is, you know, something that you're like, I really want to be able to do this, this is a good place to start. And so with a balancing tabletop, it's basically the same concept. Again, you can use two chairs or just the one chair, but you would lift, say, the right arm and the left leg, keeping that spine long, and then switch, you know, left arm, right leg. And so if you want to use the second chair, it's just a matter of putting that baby up there. You could theoretically also just use blocks, you know, but same concept. This one I feel is really good if you've got knee issues. One, you're not pressing your knee into the mat, but also, especially if maybe your hips aren't as strong, you know, because then it's just, it travels down to the knee, and it's like, me, when I'm trying to do both, I lift, and because my quads are just not that strong anymore, I just hear, like my knees are just like fucking Rice Krispies. So, you know, it's not a good feeling. I'm gonna go sideways. So, fish pose. You can do this either with a bolster or a blanket. I'm probably just gonna use the blanket, truthfully, because the bolster is pretty damn thick. But you would just take your blanket and roll it into a sausage here. Placing it behind you. So it's going down your spine, okay? And you're going to press your back into the blanket. You can either keep your feet on the mat or whatever, or if you want to, you can take your second chair and extend them forward. Essentially, when we're in fish pose, right, it's a back bend and it's a chest opener. So what I also do here is I will reach back and kind of grab the back of the chair. And then this allows me to really come into opening up that chest and bringing those shoulder blades together. And we're just tightening it into that core. And here we are, fish pose. I don't know about you, but I'm fucking sweating. So I don't know why, like, chair yoga gets such a bad rap. Forward fold. 2 different forward folds. Again, can be a 1 chair or a 2 chair. So if you're gonna just do 1 chair, generally just kind of bring yourself to the edge as close as you can. You can, again, either bring a bolster in front of you, or you can bring blocks in front of you, or nothing at all. The hips as far as you can go, and then rounding down. And you can do the same thing as we would normally do. You can hang heavy. You can grab opposite elbows and, you know, rock side to side even. You just take this second chair and you can bring the forearms to the second chair, or you can just rest your head down on it. Ultimately, what do you want to do? You want to stretch your spine. You potentially want to stretch your legs. So you can either keep them at a 90 if you want, or you can lengthen them forward. Shit, I forgot to grab straps. Let me go grab those real quick. So for the second forward fold, it's hand, not hand to knee, head to knee. So this one, I definitely say it's a 2 chair pose. And it's a strap pose. So you just take that strap, just like how you would normally do, bring it across the bottom of the foot, and you can start just pulling yourself toward it. You can do this double if you like to. You know, instead of taking 1 foot at a time, you could just take both by bringing both feet on and just bringing it forward. You know, just remembering in folds, right? You're gonna meet tension and compression. You're gonna meet the tension of muscles that might need to be opened, but you're gonna meet compression, like boob to thigh. I'm not going any farther, right? It's just not happening. And I think it's important for us to recognize that when we hit that point, this is where we belong. Not where we think we should go, not what we've seen from other people, but this is where we belong. Come on back out. 2 more. I'm gonna end up going a little bit over time. So seated twists. So we can take this seated and we can take this standing, both with the use of the chair. And that will be kind of up to you. So for this one, again, depending on your leg length, I'm gonna put something underneath of my feet. Coming forward, nice long spine here. On an exhale, I'm gonna bring that right hand to my left knee and start turning to the left, holding onto the back of the chair with my right arm and maybe glancing over the left shoulder. And then come on back. This can also be extended if you want to, lift up one of the legs, or if you want to cross over, if you want to go super deep, you can place your left leg on that second chair and twist that way if you want to. I don't know. I don't really feel my body. I don't really feel a whole lot of the difference. I personally just like taking it this way, but that's one of those areas for you to play with. And then of course, take your other side, don't forget that. And then the standing version. So with the standing version, again, 2 different ways that we can do this. We can bring the left leg up to the chair and then start twisting. So where your right hand will come to the back edge of the chair and your left hand will come to your hip. If that's too deep of a twist, you can bring your right leg up and twist. That's going to definitely be gentler on you. If you're looking for a deeper twist, the leg of the side you're twisting into, that one's going to give you, deeper. And of course, if you want to move your hand from your hip and extend it out, you can do that. There's different ways for you to play with it in this spot. This is kind of like sometimes I'll, start with a standing wind release, and then I'll have everybody sort of grab that knee and twist open. It's the same shape, but supported. Yeah. Perfect. So before we take rest, and I'm going to show you how to take rest in a chair, one more pose. This was the only one that I thought you would maybe need to lay down for. So legs up the wall is a really nice, restful pose if you can get close enough to the wall and feel secured by it. If you can't, we can take the chair and we can create an incline. Or if you're comfortable with just bringing your legs up there to the chair, same damn concept, right? And you can modify this, like how sometimes I'll roll up the blanket and put it underneath my shoulder blades so I get a really nice chest opener. Same thing. But this way, you don't have to, you know, squeeze yourself up to the wall. Gives you a little more space. You can decide how far you want your legs on the chair. It could be your feet, it could be, you know, up to the knees. It's totally up to you. Yeah, perfect. And then obviously, if you are ambulatory in a way that allows you to be on the floor and be up and whatever, you can always take final rest the way that you want to take final rest. But I do want to show you a way that you can do this in the chair. So I like to bring the bolster underneath of my legs just to kind of lift them up a little and put me in more of a restful shape rather than trying to find flat feet. We're gonna take our blanket, open it to about yay big, and start rolling it the long side, because you want it to continue to be pretty long. Yeah, that should be long enough. If it's not, then we'll open it up even farther. We're gonna bring this around the back of the head and draped over the front of the shoulders. You're gonna press into the back of the chair and you're just holding on to the blanket. And that allows you to press your head back into it because you've got that forces going back and forth. And you can just rest here. And there you go. That's Shavasana, if you will.
That's awesome.
So this has been recorded. So if either of you want to just go back and watch it at any time, I'm going to put it up on the website either tonight or tomorrow morning. And yeah, I mean, I would love to teach a chair yoga class. So I just thought I would put this out here in case people were like, I don't know if I want chair yoga. So if you like it, sing its praises. And maybe I can add it to the schedule.
I like it too. I mean, I sit all day for work, so some of these I can.
You could just do it there,
I
right?
can do it,
Yeah.
especially if I'm old.
Thanks, friends online.